cocaine addict has been jailed after he manipulated a vulnerable man to pay him €25,000 by making him believe that they were in a romantic relationship together. Carl Jess, 35 years of age, from Kylemore Drive in Ballyfermot, Dublin 10, was jailed yesterday to 2 years and 9 months after he pleaded guilty to 4 counts of making gain by deception before Dublin's Circuit Court. The court heard he convinced a vulnerable man, Stephen Kennedy, whom he knew, to pay him most of his life savings in 10 instalments, totalling $25,000. Giving evidence before Judge Martin Nolan, Detective Garda Martin O'Gara of Ballyfermot Garda Station agreed with prosecuting counsel that Mr. Jess was constantly asking Mr. Kennedy for money under the guise that he was in a romantic relationship with him. The court heard that Mr. Jess pleaded guilty to 1 count on the 27th of January this year, and he further pleaded to 3 counts on Monday, with the rest to be taken into consideration. There were 10 payments totaling €25,350 made by Mr. Kennedy from his credit union account to Mr. Jess over the period from August to November 2023. Detective Garda O'Gara was assigned to the case in February 2024 and along with his colleagues conducted a search warrant of Mr. Jess's home in April of that year. He agreed with counsel that Gardaí had become aware of the case through Damien Kennedy, a brother of the injured party, who made a report to officers. He agreed that Stephen Kennedy is a man who was quite vulnerable and that it was fair to say that he had a lower than average cognitive ability. The Detective Garda described the injured party as a vulnerable person, adding that Mr. Kennedy's brother assisted him with the case. Gardaí obtained an extensive list of WhatsApp messages between Mr. Jess and Mr. Kennedy, in which Jess made the victim believe that he was in a relationship with him. The pair knew each other since 2021, having worked together previously, the court heard. The Detective Garda outlined to the court that the large number of WhatsApp messages recovered showed repeated requests from Mr. Jess for cash. The court heard that Mr. Kennedy lived on his own and that he needs assistance in managing his affairs. In his victim impact statement, Damien Kennedy, a brother of the victim, said that Mr. Jess's actions were truly disgraceful, deceitful, and manipulative. My brother Steve is a lonely, kind, but vulnerable person with limited cognitive and intellectual ability, he told the court. He said his brother thought he developed a new friendship with Mr. Jess, but little did he know what was to unfold. He withdrew large sums of cash from his credit union account on the understanding that it would be reimbursed from an insurance claim that Carl said he had coming his way. There was no insurance claim whatsoever, he said. Mr. Kennedy went on to say that his brother had handed over most of his life savings to Mr. Jess. He said that Mr. Jess was able to manipulate his brother's mind and continued to do so for his own financial gain. He said the case had caused so much harm to his mental health and that his brother was made to believe that he was in a relationship and that he was going to move in with him. In the end, this was all lies, he said, and now he has to manage his brother's finances and limit the money that he has access to. This whole thing has led to a lot of arguments between Stephen and I, and a lot of stress, he added in his victim impact statement. He said that there was without a shadow of a doubt an absolute nightmare, and that he and his family just want to move on now and put some closure to it. The court heard that Mr. Jess was arrested on the 5th of April 2024 and that he was cooperative with Gardaí and was calm and easy to deal with during the search of his home. He was brought to Clondarkin Garda Station where he made a number of admissions, the court heard. Jess told Gardaí that he had a gambling debt but acknowledged that he had taken advantage of a vulnerable person. The court heard that Jess had 5 previous convictions, including for sale and supply of drugs. Mr. Jess's defence counsel said that he was forthright with Gardaí and that he made admissions from the very outset. They stated that their client found himself in debt during the course of a gambling addiction, and they further said that he had told Gardaí he was a gambler and that he intended to pay it back. It's horrible what I done, he told Gardaí. The court also heard that he was battling an addiction with cocaine. He had further apologised to the victim and his family and had tried to deal with the matter by way of an early plea, his defence counsel said. A letter was also handed into court, in which Mr. Jess stated that the root cause of his difficulties was a gambling addiction, and he described himself as being hounded by people that he owed money to. The Detective Garda agreed in court that he had no reason to dispute the claims made by Mr. Jess. The court heard that the maximum penalty for each count was 5 years imprisonment. In sentencing Mr. Jess, Judge Martin Nolan said that this was a case in which he took advantage of an unfortunate man and persuaded him to pay a substantial sum to him. He said this was a very serious matter, in that the victim was intellectually weak and the loss of money had greatly affected his peace of mind, as well as his relationship with the rest of his family. No doubt he probably feels very badly as a result of the way he's been treated by this defendant, Judge Nolan said. Calling it a nasty and serious crime, Judge Nolan said that Jess deserved a prison term. In mitigation, he noted that Mr. Jess's early plea and expression of remorse, but he said that the fact that a vulnerable person was involved elevated the sentence to 4 years. The court heard Jess had also been on bail since the matter began. Imposing a sentence of 33 months, Judge Nolan said that it would take place from Monday's date. He took the other pleas into account and jailed the defendant.